You are watching KSG News Explainer. This is a short, crisp, concise, exam oriented, edited editorial for civil services aspirants. In this podcast, we are going to talk about how Ukraine war could reshape energy map. Source for the content is Sanjay Dutta's article for the Times of India. In the decades since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the world energy market changed in an unforeseen way. Russia and its giant hydrocarbon reserves, which had been locked up behind the Iron Curtain, became available to the world. Russia came to be seen as a reliable supplier. It became the world's largest natural gas exporter. Of the 98 million barrels of oil, that is crude, condensate, and refined products, that moved around the world every day, 7.5 million was supplied by Russia alone. But that was before the invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin attacked Ukraine at a time when the global energy market was tight. He expected Western nations to protest but not act. However, the force of public opinion has compelled them to rethink their dependence on Russian oil and gas. The US, Japan, and South Korea have stopped or cut imports of Russian oil. The UK, which meets 8% of its demand with Russian oil, has said it will do so by the end of the year. Demand for a ban is getting louder in the Eurozone. Trading houses are finding it hard to get buyers for shiploads of Russian oil, and oil loading at Russian docks has fallen by 2 million barrels per day. So, how will the Ukraine war change the global energy map? In an article for The Economist, American energy expert Daniel Yergin predicts Russia will be a reduced energy power after the war. Although it remains a necessary supplier for now, its role is certain to diminish. Yergin is not hedging. Popular sentiment about the war aside, governments have to take a pragmatic view. After 2 years of the pandemic, the world is battling high inflation. It's not a good time to ban supplies from a country that produces almost as much oil as Saudi Arabia. Already, as a result of sanctions on Russia, oil prices have rocketed to an 8 year high and gas prices are up by 40%. Then there's the nature of Russian petroleum exports. According to the International Energy Agency, that is IEA, Russia is the world's largest exporter of oil and the second largest exporter of crude after Saudi Arabia. It is not possible to replace the commodities and raw material it provides at short notice without causing shortages and price rise. Consider Europe, for example. It needs to stock up on oil and gas before winter, but many European refineries are partly owned by Russian companies and are connected with the Druzhba oil pipeline. If the pipeline is shut, oil for these refineries may have to be brought by sea, but Europe's oil import terminals may not be able to cope with the additional shipments immediately. The alternative, importing additional oil and gas from the Middle East or the US, will be costly in comparison to piped supplies. What is likely, Yergin says, is that Russian gas sales to Europe will taper over the next 5 years. In that time, expect Europe to build more renewable energy capacity as a security measure. Electric vehicle sales will shoot up, but in the short term, coal use could also rise. Of course, Russia will then try to stay in the game by increasing its supply to China, India, and other Asian countries. China, the destination for 20% of Russian oil exports, and India, which imported 3% of its demand from Russia last year, have already ramped up their purchase of Russian crude. And despite banning Russian crude, Japan may still import so called crude from the Sakhalin 1 project, where a Japanese company, Sodeco, has a stake. However, Russia will face other challenges in diverting its petroleum exports to the east. Arranging transport and negotiating deals that do not involve the US dollar are big hurdles. If Europe turns to the Middle East for supplies, driving up prices for their regular customers, India and China, both Asian powers could turn to discounted Russian oil in a big way, provided the suppliers take care of shipping and insurance. So eventually, the oil streams of the world will change direction. However, a prolonged Ukraine conflict could hurt Russian output as Western oil firms abandon their investments in the country and the fear of sanctions prevents new buyers from taking over. So expect oil to remain on the boil unless Iranian and Venezuelan barrels start flowing, but that does not look imminent either. For now, Russia will remain the pivot of the world energy pendulum. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. To join KSG India courses and to crack the ICE exam, visit ksgindia.com. You can also get a PDF of this podcast on ksgindia.com.